Hello, my name is Mark Noneman with Agility Software, and I'd like to address the question, what evidence do you have that Agile is working? We've been working with Scrum.org on evidence-based management, which will not only help you answer that question, but determine whether it's working for you or not and be able to prove it. Most of you, or maybe someone you know, is investing a lot of money in an Agile transformation, and that could be in consulting, training, new facilities. But what's the return on that? Are you creating any more than just misery for the people in your organization? Or is it actually having a positive impact on the business bottom line? Now, most people, when they're looking at this question, focus on the practices that they're using in Agile. And that might be peer reviews, pair programming, continuous testing, maybe automated testing. And all of those practices are great. Nothing wrong with Agile practices. But if they're not actually improving your ability to deliver on the business, then it's not worth it. Let me give an analogy. I'm a sailor, and we want to go from point A to point B. We have to plot a course. And whenever we're going on that voyage, we're constantly checking, are we on course or not? How far off course are we? And also, what's going on around us? What's the state of the ocean? What's the weather up ahead? And therefore, using all that information, what should we do about it? Let's diagnose what we should do next. It's very important to keep your eyes on the goal. This is San Diego Harbor, not the Bahamas. But nevertheless, if we do nothing but focus on our goal and not understand if we're on course or not, we're just as likely to end up on the rocks as we are to get to our end goal, maybe more likely, and of course that would put a pretty terrible end to our journey. So what do we do to find out if we're on course or not? Well, we use different instruments. We look at our course, we look at how fast we're going, we look at how long we've been on this particular course and speed. And that's called deductive reckoning or dead reckoning. That is indirect evidence of where we actually are. It's an approximation of being on course. To get more precise, it's important we periodically gather some direct evidence, some direct measure of exactly where we are. Historically, of course, we use something like this, a sextant, perhaps you use GPS today, but nevertheless, it's important to periodically look at some direct evidence of knowing exactly where we are so that our leading indicators will actually be useful. At the end of the day, it only matters if we're hitting the bottom line of the business, and that might be the profitability of the company, it might be the revenue, it might be our ability to innovate, it might be how long it takes us to get new things to market, it might be our customer satisfaction. Whatever it is, if we're not impacting the business results, then all that investment is wasted. Using evidence-based management, we're looking at software organizations, three different key areas. One is the current value of the organization, the time to market, how quickly we can get new value to market, and our ability to innovate. That is, what percentage of our investment is actually going to innovation as opposed to maintaining old stuff. Looking at each of these in the current value, we've got revenue per employee. We're looking at the product cost ratio, how profitable is our product, and we're looking at employee and customer satisfaction. And we know that employee and customer satisfaction are highly correlated to each other, and they're also highly correlated to revenue. So this is the different measures we can look at in terms of current value. From a time to market perspective, we look at how frequently we can get releases out the door. New functionality is useless unless customers can actually get it. Also, we want to look at how long it takes us from the time the development team has completed their work until we can get it out the door, the release stabilization time, and our cycle time, the time it takes from the concept of value to delivering the value. And finally, our ability to innovate. How many installed versions are we supporting? What percentage of functionality we deliver are users actually using our usage index? What portion of our investment is going to new value versus maintaining old release software? And how many defects do we have that are holding us back, that are dragging our ability to deliver innovation? Now, all of these can combine together into something we call the Agility Index. And that has a couple of purposes. One is we can measure the Agility Index over time and see if it's improving. Is that Agility Index going up quarter to quarter, year over year? And also we can compare not only the measures but the Agility Index with other companies in our industry to see how we're doing compared to the competition. But all of this direct evidence is lagging evidence. They're lagging indicators. It's like driving by looking in the rearview mirror. It only tells us where we are from where we have been and what we've done in the past. It doesn't tell us whether we're headed in the right direction or not. So in addition to the direct evidence, we need some of this indirect evidence that tells us whether we're going to be making a difference in the future. So we use that direct evidence to inform our priority, even diagnose the practices we're using to see which ones of those practices we want to improve, thereby impacting the organizational value, that direct evidence. So let's take a little bit of a look at the indirect evidence and the different kinds of practices that we care about. You can see we've divided them into 5 different domains: the process domain, productivity, value, quality, and enterprise. And each of these domains encompass various practices that organizations can implement or maybe already are practicing that can have an impact on the bottom line. But which ones should you change? That's the key question. That requires diagnosis. Now, you may not be the most interesting man in the world. Maybe you need to get some professional help in doing this diagnosis, but at the end of the day, you have to decide which practices are you going to improve in order to impact the bottom line, and then verify that it's having the right impact. That improvement of those practices requires continuous improvement. That's change. Now, change is very difficult in any organization because you're asking people to make the change. That's usually puts them outside their comfort zone. Now, if we can show the evidence that the changes in the practices are impacting the bottom line of the business, that helps people understand why they're changing what they're doing. So it's not just enough to know where you've been. That's looking at direct evidence. You also have to know where you're going. So where you're going depends on what you're going to be doing differently in the future. And you need to use where you've been to guide you to decide where you're going to go. How are you going to steer the car to get to a different destination than where you've been in the past? Using evidence-based management, we can measure the current organizational value. We can use that to diagnose our current practices and then improve key practices that will help improve the organizational value, measuring the improvement, and using evidence-based management to prove it, that your investment in Agile is working. Thank you.